Hi, this is Rachel. Welcome to the next episode of my YouTube channel, What Works For Me. Today we're hopping back into the series, What Works For Me Financially. And before we get into the steps of the Dave Ramsey program, which is what my husband and I use to become debt-free, we successfully finished that project in 2019. I want to talk about a process that underpins the whole thing, which is the budget. I know that that can be a very triggering word for people, but through this journey, I have learned the value of the budget. And my husband and I have created a monthly budget every single month since April 2017. And I now can't imagine not having one. Until that point, I'd never used one successfully, and it felt super restrictive, and it felt like something that was going to take my money from me. And what I've learned is that a budget is something that actually gives you power. It allows you to tell your money where to go and what to do for you. So a budget really is a spending plan. It is something that you use at the beginning of every month to look at the money that's going to come in and tell it where to go so that you know at the end of the month where your money has gone. Some learnings through the process is it takes about 3 months to really get your budget locked in. When you begin, you can start by looking at previous month's spending and get an estimate for the amount and the places that you spend your money. There are going to be basic categories like housing, utilities, transportation, and food. And if you look back, you can start with a framework of how much those things will cost you. Another thing that we learned in the budgeting situation is that if there's something that's important to you, maybe it's getting your nails done, or you have a regular game night and you need to buy snacks, that should go in the budget because that's a place that your money's going to go, and you want to tell your money to go there and know that that is happening. So what we started with was a handwritten budget done in pencil because you're going to need to adjust during that, especially during that first 90 days while you're figuring it out, to plan and then work out your plan and see what actually happens in real life. So we started with a handwritten budget that had all of the categories of places we spent money, and we would erase as we went through if a bill was less than we expected, like maybe our water bill, or if we forgot that an oil change is something that happened this month and we didn't add it in. So we started with paper. Once we got comfortable that we had the right categories and close to the right amount, we decided to move to an electronic budget. And so we now use Excel. There are plenty of apps and platforms that can do this for you if Excel makes you cringe, but we use one and it has multiple tabs in it so we can look at our monthly budget in a variety of ways. The first tab is our big month over look ahead. It's kind of like a calendar month. And we start with the money we expect to come in. So if you have regularly scheduled paychecks, you can add all that up and see what money you have coming in. Then we have all of the categories and what we expect to spend across the month. So that's every bill, everything that we are going to spend. And we can see at a glance our income minus our individual expenses that are all listed out. So we know if we follow this plan, this is where we should end up. And any money left over can be used in the steps as you go through. The second tab is the one that I like and that I interact with daily, which is taking those expenses from the big month at a glance and separating them out by paycheck. So I have when my first paycheck comes in and all of the bills and things that are going to come out of that paycheck. And as they do come out of the account, I check them off. So I can see where we are in the month and I can compare that to our bank account. And so every month I have all of those checked off, and it's just the way for me to keep track of it as I go. The third tab is going to be helpful if you have, let's say, variable income. Maybe you are in a tip-based industry, or maybe you do freelance work and there's going to be money coming in and out. That third tab is where I track that information. So If we get an unexpected bonus at work, it can go there. If we spend in an area we didn't expect, so maybe I have some friends getting married and we're contributing to their photography. That's not going to be in my monthly budget because that was new. So it's going to go on this third page where I can keep track of unexpected money going out and money coming in and keep kind of a running total there so that every bit of money that comes in or goes out has a place. It either has a place in our regular budget that I tick off as it goes, or it has this third place that I can track it against. And so between those three pieces, we've been able to manage our money on a monthly basis and get better and better at planning. There are a couple of things that helped us be successful in our budget. When we very first started, we needed to set a limit on certain categories. We needed to set a limit on the amount of food that we were eating in restaurants. We needed to set a limit on treats and things that we bought for the dogs. And so in order to help limit that, we used a system called envelopes. And envelopes help you use physical cash. And when you get paid, you will have identified a certain amount of that money in an envelope. You'll withdraw that from your bank, put it in the envelope, and you can spend that money on that category until it's gone. And that is a great way to really understand how much things cost. You may not feel it as emotionally when you just swipe your card, but when you have physical cash and you see that envelope getting smaller and smaller, it really helps you understand where your money goes and how quickly it can go. Now, I totally understand if carrying cash is something that makes you feel uncomfortable. And we've actually gotten to the point where we're monitoring our expenses so much that we use the card and we just tally it against our digital envelope. So we're still assigning a certain amount of money for restaurants and for groceries and for gas and things like that every month. But instead of taking the cash out and physically putting it in an envelope, we're doing that digitally. Another thing I think that is very helpful with the budget is setting some conversational limits around unexpected expenses. So between my husband and I, we've decided that if something costs $300 or more and we didn't expect to spend it, maybe it's one of us gets invited or we both get invited to a weekend trip, or he wants to buy some new equipment for his woodworking hobby, then we'll talk about it and we'll wait 24 hours to kind of just acknowledge the fact that we're about to spend this money. It at first, because of I think both of our upbringings, being that open about the things that we were spending was uncomfortable. And we had to build trust with each other that we weren't going to judge each other, that this was a journey that we were both on. And I think that's super important to have that build that level of confidence with managing money, especially if you grew up in a household where money was a big cause of stress and fighting. If you aren't partnered, you can certainly have an accountability buddy, somebody that you talk to about the things that you're thinking about spending, just to give you that time to talk it out. Because sometimes I know when I get excited about something, if I have a conversation with someone, I'm thinking as I'm talking, and I can decide whether it's really a priority for me or not. The budget has allowed me to see the things that are important to us. They say that if you look at your calendar and your pocketbook, you'll see where your priorities are. And that's helped me shift some things where before I may have just not knowingly spent money, go to a little boutique and buy some stuff. And I realized I had bigger goals or different things I wanted to save for. The budget helped me change that for a month or two until I had the money that I wanted to buy the bigger thing instead of buying impulse stuff. That's an important thing to remember about budgets too, is they're never permanent. As we go through these steps, there will be goals that you want to hit with your money in order to, work through any debt you have and then on to financial freedom. And we've had major shifts in where we told our money to go. As an example, during our debt payoff period, we have a segment of our budget we call pocket money. And pocket money is designed to be cash or money in an account that is yours alone, that you can spend however you want. No conversations needed. If it's in your pocket money, it's yours to use as you wish. Well, when we were in debt payoff mode, we were really focused on that. So we limited our pocket money out of every paycheck to a small amount so that we had some money that we could play with. I could buy a new pair of sunglasses if I wanted to, but we both agreed that we wanted to pay off our debt. So we put more money, any extra money we had, into that, as opposed to giving ourselves a bunch of pocket money that we could just spend anywhere. As we've paid off our debt and as we have continued on this journey, our pocket money's grown up big. And so we get a bigger portion of every paycheck into our personal, each of our accounts that we can use to spend on whatever we want. Go see a show if you want to buy tickets for, or buy clothes, or just kind of anything that allows you that control and freedom to put the amounts that you want towards the things that you want when you want it. And so that's evidence that it changes. Just because you may start out with a very tight budget when you begin, doesn't mean it will always be that way. Know that you're working through a process to help you take back control of your money so that you're not scared of it, that you know what's going on, and so that you can control it. I think another thing that became evident to us through the budget is how were we spending more than we made? And I will be honest, when we did our very first budget, we realized that we were overspending the income we were making, but we didn't feel it because we were getting paid alternating weeks. So we always had money coming in. So it never drained our bank account to zero and then we had to catch up. So having a budget lets you know, are you actually living above your means, or are you living below your means, which simply means spending less than you make. The budget has clarified and removed stress and mystery from our daily and weekly and monthly living so that we now can make big plans, and we know how long it's going to take us to get somewhere. We know that if we go out of budget, we have an idea of what our next goal is, and we know that that's taking away from that goal. And it just makes money a tool for you. It makes it something that you're using to achieve the life that you want, instead of something to be afraid of, instead of something that you don't have any control over. So I would highly recommend that if you are interested in, actually, no, I'm not gonna recommend anything. This channel is about what works for me. And so what works for me is giving myself the patience at the beginning of the process in 2017 to spend 3 months figuring out a budget that works. And from there, replicating that budget every month, starting out the month, looking at what I expect to spend in that month, finding cycles. So our trash only gets paid quarterly. So when is that going to fall, and other things like that. And knowing what I can expect to have at the end of the month, knowing when I'm going outside of my spending plan, knowing when, we have things coming up like Christmas or birthdays that we want to plan for, and being able to put money away so that there's no stress. And I think stress comes when unexpected things happen. So this allows most everything to be expected. So the budget was a huge underpinning for our financial journey so far, and it's working out for us really well. Next episode, we'll jump into the steps of the Dave Ramsey program, beginning with step 1. And of course, that is not necessarily the program that's going to work for everybody. It's what works for me. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions about our budgeting experience. And I'll see you next week. Thank you so much.